I'm Daisy, 29 female. I live in a city I love, in a quiet apartment with my fiancé, Connor, and I have a career as a senior marketing analyst that challenges me in all the right ways. My life is built on data, logic, and predictability. But for nearly 2 decades, my family operated on a single, chaotic variable: my younger sister, Lily. For as long as I can remember, her supposed fragility has been the anchor that has dragged down every one of my achievements. This is the story of how I finally cut the rope. Before this story unfolds, I'd love to connect with you. Please let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is in your corner of the world. It's amazing to see how far these stories can travel. My earliest memory of my sister Lily's anxiety is from my 8th grade graduation. I was set to receive the top academic award, an honor I had worked tirelessly for. I remember the weight of the medal in my hand during the rehearsal, the crisp fold of the little certificate. Backstage, as my name was about to be called, a frantic whisper spread through the teachers. My mother, Paige, appeared, her face a mask of strained panic. "It's Lily," she'd said, her voice tight. "She's having one of her panic attacks. We have to go, now." I remember the confusion, the hot sting of tears I refused to let fall. My father, Tristan, was already by the car, his arm around a sobbing, hyperventilating Lily. She was only 11. I never got to walk across that stage. We spent the evening in an emergency room waiting area where, after 2 hours and a popsicle, Lily was perfectly fine. The doctor found nothing wrong. My award was mailed to me a week later. It didn't feel the same. This became the blueprint for our lives. My high school graduation party was cut short when Lily couldn't handle the overwhelming energy of our relatives and locked herself in the bathroom, refusing to come out until my parents took her home, which of course meant they took me home too. The party ended before I even got to cut the cake. My first big art show in college, I was minoring in fine arts, was overshadowed by a call from my dad telling me Lily was having a severe attack because the pressure of my success was triggering her own feelings of inadequacy. I spent the night of my triumph on the phone, coaching my mother on breathing exercises for my sister, the sound of my friends celebrating echoing faintly in the background. My parents, Tristan and Paige, were the chief enablers of this recurring drama. Tristan, a real estate broker, was obsessed with maintaining the image of a perfect, compassionate family. He'd say things like, "We have to be there for her, Daisy. She's just more sensitive than the rest of us." Paige, who ran a chic little boutique downtown, treated Lily's anxiety like a rare, delicate flower that needed constant, specialized care. Any suggestion that Lily might be exaggerating or that her timing was suspiciously convenient was met with horrified gasps and accusations of being cold and unfeeling. "How can you be so cruel?" my mother would ask, her eyes wide with disappointment. "She can't help it. Her brain is just wired differently." They built a world where Lily's emotions were the sun, and the rest of us were just planets orbiting her, forced to adjust our paths to avoid collision. I was the responsible one, the stable one, the one who could handle disappointment because I was stronger. My strength became a license for them to neglect my needs. Every milestone, every victory, every moment that was supposed to be mine was either interrupted, cut short, or completely eclipsed by a sudden, dramatic Lily event. The narrative was always the same: Daisy is strong, so she can handle it. Lily is fragile, so we must sacrifice for her. My fiancé, Connor, was the first person who saw through the charade. When we first started dating, he was sympathetic. He'd listen patiently as I recounted yet another story of a birthday dinner ruined or a holiday celebration derailed. He'd rub my back and say, "That must be so hard for your family." But Connor is a financial advisor. He deals in patterns, in cause and effect, in numbers that don't lie. After a year, his sympathy began to curdle into suspicion. We were supposed to go on our first weekend getaway, a trip to the mountains I had meticulously planned. The night before we were set to leave, my phone rang. It was my mother. "Daisy, honey," she began, her voice already laced with that familiar, apologetic dread. "Lily had a terrible nightmare about you getting into a car accident. She's a wreck. She's convinced something awful will happen if you go." I felt the familiar cold dread wash over me. I explained to Connor, expecting him to understand. He just looked at me, his expression unreadable. "So you're going to cancel our trip because your 24-year-old sister had a bad dream?" he asked, his voice calm but firm. I tried to explain the family dynamic, years of conditioning. "It's not that simple," I argued. "You don't know what she's like. It's a real panic attack." Connor shook his head slowly. "Is it, Daisy? Or is it a real tantrum from someone who can't stand not being the center of attention for a single weekend?" It was the first time anyone had put my deepest, darkest thought into words. The question hung in the air between us, terrifying and liberating all at once. I had spent so long telling myself that I was a bad person for even thinking it, for feeling the resentment that simmered just beneath the surface. We didn't go on the trip. I caved like I always did. The guilt, expertly wielded by my parents, was too much to bear, but something had shifted. Connor's words had planted a seed of doubt that began to sprout, watered by years of buried anger. I started paying closer attention, not just to the events themselves, but to the aftermath. I noticed how quickly Lily would recover once the event was successfully sabotaged. After my canceled trip, my mom sent me a picture the next day. It was of her and Lily at the mall, smiling. "Just a little retail therapy to cheer her up," the caption read. There she was, my supposedly fragile sister, who was too traumatized by a nightmare to let me go away for 2 days, looking perfectly happy and relaxed, holding a shopping bag from my mother's boutique. The resentment began to burn hotter. I was tired of being the supporting actress in the long-running drama of my own life. I was tired of the curtain calls for every crisis, where I was always the one left standing on an empty stage. Little did I know, the biggest performance was yet to come, and it would be the one that finally forced me to rewrite the entire script. Connor and I had been together for 4 years. Our relationship was my sanctuary, the one place where logic reigned and my feelings were considered valid. He was my partner in every sense of the word, and we had been talking about marriage for a while. We both knew it was the next step, a future we were eagerly building together. Connor, being the meticulous planner he was, wanted the proposal to be perfect. He knew how many of my special moments had been stolen, and he was determined this one would be mine and mine alone. He planned a surprise trip to a beautiful coastal town a few hours away, booking a suite at a historic inn overlooking the ocean. He told my parents he was taking me away for a belated birthday celebration to keep the true purpose a secret. He didn't want any chance of a preemptive nightmare or a sudden anxiety spike from Lily. The weekend was magical. We walked along the beach, ate at a wonderful seafood restaurant, and talked about our future. On the second evening, at sunset, he took me to a secluded cliffside garden overlooking the water. It was there, with the sky painted in shades of orange and purple, that he got down on one knee. He spoke about our life together, about how I was the most resilient and compassionate person he knew, and how he wanted to be my partner in all things forever. The ring was stunning, a simple, elegant design I had admired months ago. I was crying, laughing, and saying yes before he even finished his sentence. For the first time, a milestone felt truly, completely, and unbreakably mine. We were in our own perfect bubble, miles away from the predictable chaos of my family. We decided to keep the news to ourselves for one more night, just to savor the moment. The next day, on the drive home, I was practically vibrating with joy. I couldn't wait to share our news. We decided to tell my family first in person. We stopped to pick up a bottle of champagne on the way to their house. I called my mom from the car. "Hey, Mom, Connor and I are heading over. We have some really exciting news to share with you all. Can you make sure everyone is there?" She sounded thrilled, her voice light and happy. "Of course, sweetie, we'll be waiting." I felt a surge of optimism. Maybe this time would be different. This was too big, too important for Lily to spoil. Surely, even she would have to be happy for me. We walked into my parents' house, and the atmosphere was warm and celebratory. My dad, Tristan, gave me a huge hug, and my mom was already getting out her best champagne flutes. Lily was sitting on the sofa, scrolling through her phone, looking deceptively calm. Okay, we can't wait any longer. What's the big news?" my dad boomed, rubbing his hands together. Connor and I stood in the middle of the living room, holding hands. I took a deep breath, my heart pounding with excitement. "Well," I said, beaming, "Connor asked me to marry him." I held up my hand, showing them the ring, its diamond catching the light. For a split second, there was pure joy. My mom gasped, rushing forward to hug me. My dad let out a whoop of delight. Even Lily looked up from her phone, a flicker of something, surprise, envy, in her eyes before it was replaced by a small, tight smile. "Oh, Daisy, it's beautiful," my mom cried, examining the ring. My dad was shaking Connor's hand, slapping him on the back. The champagne was popped, glasses were filled, and a toast was made. I felt dizzy with happiness. For about 10 minutes, everything was perfect. It was everything I had ever wanted a family celebration to be. And then it started. It began subtly. As I was telling the story of the proposal, describing the cliffside garden, Lily let out a small, shaky sigh. My mother, conditioned by years of practice, immediately turned to her. "What is it, sweetie? Are you okay?" Lily waved a dismissive hand, but her bottom lip was trembling. "I'm fine. It's nothing. This is Daisy's moment." But she had already planted the seed. The attention in the room subtly shifted. My father's smile became a little more strained. As I continued my story, Lily's breathing became audibly shallow. She pressed a hand to her chest. I feel a little lightheaded," she whispered, her voice cracking. That was all it took. The perfect bubble burst. My proposal story was left hanging, unfinished. My mother was instantly at Lily's side, stroking her hair. "Tristan, get her a glass of water," she commanded. My father rushed to the kitchen. The focus of the room had swiveled from my joy to Lily's distress with practiced efficiency. Connor stood next to me, his jaw tight, his eyes blazing with a fury I had never seen before. He squeezed my hand, a silent message of support. "Lily, honey, what's wrong?" "What do you need?" my mother cooed. "It's just all this talk of weddings," Lily stammered, tears now welling in her eyes. "It's so much pressure. It makes me think about my own future and I can't breathe." She was having a full-blown 5-star panic attack, right on cue. The champagne glasses were forgotten on the coffee table. My beautiful, perfect moment was dissolving into a chaotic medical drama with my sister as the tragic star. My father was trying to get her to drink water. My mother was whispering breathing instructions. I just stood there, my hand with the beautiful ring feeling heavy and cold. The joy had evaporated, replaced by the familiar, bitter taste of resentment. Connor stepped forward. "Paige, Tristan," he said, his voice dangerously level. "Daisy and I are going to head out. It seems like you have your hands full." My mother looked up, her face a mixture of concern for Lily and exasperation with us. "Oh, don't be silly. We just need to get her calmed down. We still want to hear all about it." But we both knew it was over. The moment was gone, irrevocably tainted. As we walked to the door, I could hear Lily's sobs escalating. I glanced back and saw her clutching my mother, her face buried in her shoulder, while my father hovered uselessly. She looked like a frightened child. But for the first time, I didn't see a fragile girl struggling with a debilitating mental illness. I saw a master manipulator, an actress giving the performance of a lifetime. And I saw her audience, my parents, giving her a standing ovation while my own show closed before it even began. In the car, I was silent, the tears I'd been holding back finally streaming down my face. Connor just drove, one hand on the wheel and the other holding mine tightly. He didn't say, "I told you so." He didn't have to. We both knew this wasn't just another ruined moment. This was a declaration of war. The weeks following the proposal were a tense replay of the same old story. Every attempt to talk about wedding planning was met with a gentle redirection by my parents. "Let's not overwhelm Lily right now, Daisy. She's still feeling very fragile after your announcement." The narrative they spun was that my happiness was a direct trigger for her anxiety. My joy had become a dangerous substance that needed to be handled with extreme care, rationed out in small, careful doses so as not to upset the delicate family ecosystem. I was expected to shrink my own happiness to make room for her supposed pain. Connor was furious, but he followed my lead, waiting for me to decide how to handle it. He suggested we just plan the wedding ourselves and leave them out of it. But a part of me, the part that had been conditioned for 29 years, still foolishly hoped for my family's support. The turning point, the moment the last shred of doubt was obliterated, came about a month later. It was a Tuesday evening, and I had to stop by my parents' house to pick up some old family photo albums for our engagement party. I called my mom, Paige, and she said she'd leave them on the porch for me, as she and my dad were heading out for a dinner reservation. When I arrived, however, their car was still in the driveway. Thinking I'd just missed them, I went up to the front door. As I reached for the handle, I realized the door was slightly ajar. I could hear voices from inside, my mother's and Lily's. I paused, not wanting to interrupt, but then the words. They were saying registered, and I froze. I just don't know how we're going to manage a whole year of this wedding talk, Lily was saying, her voice not shaky or panicked, but sharp and annoyed. It was a tone I rarely heard from her. It was the voice she used when she was complaining about a barista getting her coffee order wrong, not the voice of someone in the throes of crippling anxiety. It's all they're going to talk about. It's so boring and self-centered. There was a rustle of fabric, and then my mother's voice, lower and conspiratorial. I know, honey. We just have to play along for a little while. Your sister deserves her moment, I suppose. Her tone was patronizing, as if she were talking about a child. I stood there on the porch, my hand hovering over the doorknob, feeling like I'd been punched in the gut. This wasn't the conversation of a concerned mother and a fragile daughter. This was a conversation between two allies, two co-conspirators. She deserves it, Lily scoffed, and the venom in her voice was chilling. Why does she always get everything? The good job, the perfect fiancé, and now this giant, expensive party all about her. It's not fair. I can't even post about my new brand partnership for a week because it would be seen as stealing her thunder. It's my career, Mom. My blood ran cold. Her career? Her social media influencer career was being inconvenienced by my engagement? That was the root of this. I leaned closer to the door, my heart hammering against my ribs. I had to hear the rest. I know it's frustrating, my mom soothed. But you know the drill. A little drama goes a long way. If the wedding planning gets to be too much, you just have to have a little wobble. A panic attack here, a few sleepless nights there. Your father and I will handle the rest. We can slow things down, remind Daisy not to be so over the top about everything. We need to manage her expectations. A little wobble. The phrase echoed in my mind, a sickening, terrifying drumbeat. A panic attack here, a few sleepless nights there. It wasn't a diagnosis, it was a strategy. A tool. A weapon they had been using against me my entire life. Every canceled party, every ruined milestone, every moment of my life that had been sacrificed on the altar of her mental health flashed before my eyes. It wasn't real. It was a calculated, manipulative performance, and my own mother was her director. I felt a wave of nausea. I wanted to storm in there to scream, to confront them with their disgusting betrayal. But some instinct for self-preservation held me back. An open confrontation would just lead to denial. Lily would start crying, my mother would accuse me of eavesdropping and cruelty, and my father would side with them to keep the peace. They would gaslight me into oblivion, just as they always had. I would be the villain once again, the unfeeling sister who attacked her poor, sick sibling. No, a confrontation now would be a waste of ammunition. If I was going to fight back, I needed more than just a memory of a conversation. I needed undeniable, irrefutable proof. Quietly, I backed away from the door, my feet moving silently on the wooden porch. I crept back to my car, the photo albums completely forgotten. I sat in the driver's seat for a long time, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. The entire foundation of my family life was a lie. My sister's illness was a fiction, my parents' concern was a performance, and my role as the strong one was just the part they had assigned me in their sick play. The grief was overwhelming. It was the death of the family I thought I had, the mother I thought loved me unconditionally, the sister I thought was just struggling. But beneath the grief, something else was taking root, a cold, hard, and unfamiliar resolve. They thought I was strong. They had no idea. They had spent years pushing me down, forcing me to absorb disappointment after disappointment. They had trained me to be resilient. They had inadvertently forged the very weapon that was going to bring their whole charade crashing down. The tears of sadness turned into tears of fury. The game was on, and for the first time in my life, I was going to write my own rules. The hunt for proof had begun. The drive home from my parents' house was a blur of anger and adrenaline. When I walked into my apartment, Connor took one look at my face and knew something was terribly wrong. I told him everything: the conversation I'd overheard, the casual cruelty in Lily's voice, my mother's complicity. I told him about the phrase, "a little wobble," and how it had recontextualized every sacrifice I had ever made. He didn't look surprised. He just pulled me into a hug and let me cry it out. When I was done, his expression was grimly determined. "Okay," he said, his voice low and steady. "So, what's the plan? We're done playing their game." He was right, we were done, but I knew I couldn't just accuse them. Their entire family dynamic was built on a foundation of plausible deniability. It would be my word against theirs, and I would lose just like I always had. "I need proof, Connor," I said, wiping my eyes. "I need something they can't deny or twist." My mind, trained in marketing analysis, immediately started thinking in terms of data. I needed to find a pattern, something that could be documented and presented. Lily's entire life was curated online. She was a social media influencer, specializing in lifestyle and wellness. The irony was sickening. She built her brand on a platform of authenticity and mental health awareness, all while faking a mental illness to manipulate her own family. Her digital life was a performance for her followers, and I suspected her private digital life would tell the real story. My investigation started with our family's shared cloud account. My parents had set it up years ago for sharing photos, but we all had access to certain shared folders, and carelessly, they had never changed the default settings that synced photo streams and certain app data. I started digging. It felt like a violation of privacy, but the betrayal I had overheard felt like a far greater one. I combed through years of photos, cross-referencing the dates with my own life events. The pattern was damningly clear. My high school graduation party, May 25th. That morning, Lily had an attack so severe she couldn't get out of bed. But in the photo stream from that same day, time-stamped at 4 p.m. while I was at home consoling my disappointed friends, was a smiling selfie of Lily with her best friend at the movies. The geotag confirmed it. The day I got my driver's license, a huge moment of independence for any 16-year-old. Lily had a breakdown because I would be able to leave her. My parents canceled the celebratory dinner they had promised me. I found photos from that evening of Lily and my mom baking cookies, both of them covered in flour and laughing. She didn't look like someone in the depths of despair. My college acceptance letter day for my dream university, another episode. According to the cloud, she and her friends had spent that afternoon at a water park. It was all there, a hidden timeline of her deception running parallel to my history of disappointment. She wasn't just recovering quickly. She was actively enjoying herself while I was being forced to cater to her fabricated crises. The next step was more direct. I remembered that years ago, I had helped Lily set up her laptop and had linked her messaging app to it. I had a vague memory of the password, a combination of her cat's name and her birth year. On a long shot, I tried it on her messaging app's web client. It worked. I felt a pang of guilt, but it was quickly replaced by a cold fury as I saw the messages. I focused my search on the days surrounding my major life events, especially my recent engagement. I found a conversation with her best friend, Amelia, from the day after Connor proposed. "Lily, I'm so over it. Daisy got engaged. And the ring is ridiculously big, of course." "Amelia, OMG no way, are you okay? I know how you get." "Lily, please, I'm fine, but you know Mom and Dad, I had to pull out a classic panic attack. Crying, shaking, the whole 9 yards, they bought it completely." "Amelia, LOL, you are a master, did it work? Did you ruin the announcement?" "Lily, totally, we didn't even finish the champagne. They spent the rest of the night making me tea and telling me how I'm the real prize. It was almost worth having to listen to Daisy's boring proposal story." I had to put my laptop down and take a deep breath. Seeing the words, so casual and cruel, was like being stabbed. She wasn't just faking it, she was bragging about it. She was proud of her ability to manipulate our parents and hurt me. She saw it as a game, a skill she had perfected. The message thread went on, detailing her strategy. She discussed how she was going to manage the wedding planning by having periodic episodes to make sure things didn't get too Daisy-centric. She even joked about having a major attack on the wedding day itself, musing about whether she should fake fainting or just have a good old-fashioned screaming fit. I took screenshots, dozens of them. I saved the photos from the cloud. I created a folder on a secure thumb drive, labeling it simply the evidence. Each screenshot, each photo, each time-stamped lie was a nail in the coffin of the life I had known. Connor watched me work, his expression a mixture of pride and heartbreak. He saw the pain this was causing me, but he also saw the strength that was emerging from it. "What are you going to do with all of this, Daisy?" he asked gently one night as I was archiving another set of incriminating messages. I looked at the file, then at the calendar on our wall. Our wedding date was circled in red, 6 months away. "I'm going to give her the stage she's always wanted," I said, my voice devoid of emotion. "She wants to give a performance at my wedding? Fine, but I'll be the one directing the show." The time for quiet resentment was over. It was time to set the stage for a finale no one in my family would ever forget. With the thumb drive of evidence securely in my possession, the next 6 months were a masterclass in strategic deception. I had to play the part of the dutiful daughter and understanding sister, all while secretly planning the public detonation of their lies. It was the hardest thing I had ever done. Every phone call with my mother, Paige, was a performance. I would listen to her gentle warnings about not putting too much pressure on Lily, and I would respond with a calm, "I understand, Mom. Her health comes first." I agreed to her suggestions to downsize the guest list, to choose a less overwhelming venue, and to keep the pre-wedding celebrations to a minimum, all under the guise of protecting Lily's fragile psyche. In reality, every concession I made was a strategic move to keep them complacent and unsuspecting. Connor was my rock. He became the gatekeeper, fielding calls from my parents and gently steering them away from any planning details he deemed too stressful for the family to handle right now. We presented a united front of compassionate concern. "We've decided to hire a wedding planner to take the stress off of everyone," I told them, which was true. Her name was Cassandra, and she was a sharp, no-nonsense professional, but her real, undisclosed role was co-conspirator. During our first meeting, after Connor and I laid out the general plan for the wedding, I asked her to stay behind. I told her the whole story, from my 8th grade graduation to the messages I'd found. I expected her to be shocked, perhaps even hesitant to get involved. Instead, she just leaned back in her chair, a slow smile spreading across her face. "Well," she said, "I've handled bridezillas and monster-in-laws, but this is a whole new level of drama. I love it. Let's make sure the lighting is perfect when it all goes down." Cassandra was a godsend. She helped us execute a 2-pronged wedding plan. Plan A was the version my family knew about, a small, intimate, and slightly subdued affair designed around Lily's needs. Plan B was the real wedding, the one that would happen after the truth came out. The key was in the logistics. We booked a beautiful, sprawling vineyard for the entire day. My parents were told the ceremony and a brief, quiet luncheon would take place in a small, secluded garden on the property. What they didn't know was that on the other side of the estate, in the grand ballroom, a full 150 guest reception was being set up for later in the afternoon, with all of our friends, extended family, and colleagues who had been invited secretly. The deception extended to every detail. We had 2 sets of invitations printed. My parents were given a small stack of elegant, simple cards for the family-only ceremony. The real invitations, sent out by Cassandra, went to everyone else, explaining that we were having a private family ceremony followed by a large celebration, and asking them to arrive at a later time. I had to lie to aunts, uncles, and cousins I adored, telling them we were keeping the ceremony small for personal reasons, knowing I would explain everything later. Every lie felt like a small tear in my own integrity, but I knew it was necessary. During this time, Lily, feeling empowered by my apparent submission, became more brazen. She would have minor spells during dress fittings or cake tastings, just enough to ensure the attention swung back to her. I would play my part, rushing to her side with a glass of water, my face a perfect mask of concern. Inside, I was just ticking off boxes in my head, gathering more anecdotal evidence for the final confrontation. My parents praised me for being so mature and understanding. "You've really grown up, Daisy," my dad, Tristan, told me one afternoon. "It's so wonderful to see you putting your sister's needs first." I just smiled, the words tasting like ash in my mouth. The most painful part was seeing how easily they accepted my surrender. They didn't want me to be happy, they wanted me to be manageable. 2 weeks before the wedding, the final piece of my plan fell into place. We had hired a videographer to film the ceremony. I had a private meeting with him and explained the situation. I gave him a copy of the evidence on a new thumb drive. The plan was simple. During the part of the ceremony where the officiant asks if anyone has any objections, a large screen, hidden behind a curtain of flowers, would descend. He was to play a prepared video file. It would start with the smiling photos of Lily enjoying herself while she was supposed to be in crisis, followed by the damning screenshots of her text messages, all set to dramatic, heart-wrenching music. It was theatrical, it was brutal, and it was exactly what they deserved. The videographer, a young, creative guy who had seen his share of wedding drama, was ecstatic. He called it his masterpiece. The night before my wedding, I felt surprisingly calm. Connor and I were staying in a hotel near the vineyard. He held my hand and asked if I was sure I wanted to go through with it. "There's no coming back from this, Daisy," he said softly. I looked at him, my partner, the one person who had seen the real me and loved me not because I was strong enough to take abuse, but because I was worthy of happiness. "They burned the bridge a long time ago, Connor," I replied. "Tomorrow, I'm just lighting up the wreckage so the whole world can see it." I was no longer the girl who had her graduation stolen. I was a woman taking back her life, and my wedding wasn't just going to be a celebration of my future with Connor. It was going to be the day I celebrated my liberation from my past. The stage was set. The audience was about to arrive. And the star of the show had no idea her final performance was about to be her last. My wedding day dawned bright and clear, the sky a perfect, cloudless blue. In the bridal suite, there was a strange sense of calm. My real friends who were in on the plan acted as a buffer, creating a bubble of peace around me. They handled my hair and makeup, chattering about excitement for the party later, never once mentioning the storm that was about to break. My mother, Paige, and my sister, Lily, arrived around mid-morning, their faces arranged in careful expressions of familial joy. Lily was my maid of honor, a title she had insisted upon. The irony was so thick I could barely breathe. She wore a soft lavender dress, looking the very picture of delicate innocence. My mother fussed over my dress, her compliments feeling hollow and rehearsed. "Oh, Daisy, you look beautiful, just radiant," she said, her eyes not quite meeting mine. Lily stood back, phone in hand, taking selfies. "Don't I look amazing as a maid of honor?" she asked her reflection, pouting her lips. "The lighting in here is perfect for my feed." The ceremony was to take place in the secluded garden, just as they believed. There were only 30 chairs set up. For me, Connor, my parents, his parents, Lily, and a few close family members who were acting as unwitting witnesses. The hidden screen was perfectly concealed behind a large, ornate trellis of white roses. The videographer gave me a subtle nod as I walked down the aisle with Connor. We had decided to walk together, as a team. The ceremony was beautiful. The officiant spoke of love, partnership, and truth. I focused on Connor, on his steady hands holding mine, on the promise in his eyes. This was real. Our love was the one true thing in a day built on a foundation of lies. My parents beamed from the front row. Lily stood beside me, looking bored but playing her part. Then came the moment. The officiant smiled warmly and said, "If there is anyone present who has an objection to this union, speak now or forever hold your peace." There was a beat of silence, and then, right on cue, Lily's breath hitched, her hand flew to her chest. I can't," she whispered, her voice trembling. My mother was on her feet in an instant. "Lily, honey, what's wrong?" My father looked alarmed, his perfect family picture starting to crack. Lily swayed, her eyes fluttering. "It's too much. The finality of it, I feel dizzy." This was it, her grand finale performance. She was trying to stop my wedding right at the climax. I turned to her, but instead of concern, my face was a mask of cold serenity. "Actually," I said, my voice clear and steady, projecting to the small crowd, There is an objection, mine. A gasp went through the audience. My parents looked utterly bewildered. Connor squeezed my hand, a silent signal of support. But my objection isn't to my marriage, I continued, turning to face my family. It's to this family's long and storied history of lies. Before they could respond, I nodded to the videographer. The dramatic, orchestral music began to swell from hidden speakers. The screen descended from behind the rose trellis, smooth and silent. My family stared, dumbfounded, as the first image filled the screen, a smiling selfie of Lily at the movies, time-stamped on the day of my 8th grade graduation. Then another, Lily and my mom baking cookies on the night my driver's license dinner was canceled. Photo after photo flashed on the screen, a highlight reel of her deceptions, each one synced to a caption I had written. The day I won my academic award. The day I got my art show acceptance. The weekend of my first trip with Connor. My family's faces went from confusion to horror. Lily's jaw dropped, her performative dizziness vanishing instantly. My mother's face went pale and my father looked like he had been struck. But I was just getting started. After the photos came the text messages, blown up to a massive size, impossible to ignore. I had to pull out a classic panic attack. Crying, shaking, the whole 9 yards, Lily's message to Amelia Reed. The screen showed her laughing response, "LOL, you are a master." It showed their conversation about ruining my engagement announcement, her complaints about me getting all the attention, and her casual discussion of faking an episode on my wedding day. When the final screenshot faded to black, there was a dead, ringing silence in the garden. No one moved. No one spoke. The only sound was the gentle rustle of leaves in the breeze. Lily was ghostly white, her mouth opening and closing like a fish. My mother looked at me, her eyes filled with a dawning, terrified understanding. My father just stared at the blank screen, his perfect family image shattered into a million pieces. I let the silence hang for a moment longer before speaking. My voice didn't shake. For 20 years, I began, looking directly at my parents, you have enabled this. You have sacrificed my happiness, my achievements, and my milestones for the sake of a lie. You didn't protect a fragile daughter. You created a monster. And you, Lily, I said, turning to my sister, whose face was now crumpling in genuine, ugly tears of exposure, you didn't just hurt me. You made a mockery of real mental illness. You used it as a weapon to stay the center of attention. Well, you have it now. Here is the stage you always wanted. Enjoy the spotlight. I turned my back on them. Cassandra, I called out. My wedding planner stepped forward, her face impassive. Please escort Tristan, Paige, and Lily off the property. They are no longer welcome. My father started to protest. Daisy, you don't understand. Oh, I understand perfectly. I cut him off, my voice like ice. Security will be here in 2 minutes if they are not gone. My mother started to sob, a pathetic, pleading sound. Daisy, please, we can talk about this. But there was nothing left to talk about. Lily was just standing there, utterly exposed, the manipulator stripped of her tools. For the first time in her life, she had no performance left to give. Security guards, hired by Cassandra, appeared at the edge of the garden, their presence large and final. My family, my broken, toxic family, was escorted away from my wedding, leaving a trail of shattered lies behind them. As they left, the officiant who had been briefed simply smiled at us. Shall we continue? And as I turned back to Connor, a profound sense of peace washed over me. The show was over. My real life was just beginning. After my family was removed from the property, a strange calm settled over the small group of guests who had witnessed the implosion. Connor's parents, who had been horrified but silent spectators, came forward and embraced us both, their eyes filled with a mixture of shock and profound sympathy. We are so sorry, Daisy, his mother whispered. We are so proud of you, his father added, his voice thick with emotion. Our officiant, a true professional, cleared his throat and brought the focus back to us. We exchanged our vows, and when he pronounced us husband and wife, the small crowd erupted in a cheer that felt 10 times its size. It was a cheer for love, but also for justice. Walking back down the aisle, hand in hand with my husband, felt like the first step into a new world. Cassandra met us with 2 glasses of champagne. The party awaits, she said with a triumphant grin. We were whisked away on a golf cart to the other side of the estate, where the grand ballroom was buzzing with the energy of 150 of our friends and family, all unaware of the drama that had just unfolded. As we made our grand entrance, the applause was deafening. Seeing the faces of people who genuinely loved and supported us was the perfect antidote to the poison that had just been purged from my life. We explained to our guests that due to a private family matter, my parents and sister were unable to attend the reception. The statement was vague but final, and everyone respectfully moved on. The reception was everything I had ever dreamed of. We danced, we laughed, and we ate cake. For the first time, a celebration in my honor was just that, a celebration, pure and unadulterated. There were no whispers, no sudden exits, no looming sense of dread that a wobble was about to derail everything. There was just joy. My phone, which I had given to my maid of honor, a real friend who had replaced Lily, remained silent. I had blocked their numbers before the ceremony, but I had no doubt they were trying to reach me through other means. It didn't matter. They were outside the walls of my new life, and they didn't have the key. In the days and weeks that followed, the silence from my side remained absolute. I received frantic emails from my parents, cycling through denial, anger, and pathetic pleas for forgiveness. "You humiliated us," my father wrote in one. "How could you be so cruel to your sister? She's a complete wreck," my mother wrote in another. They didn't apologize for their actions, only for being caught. They weren't sorry for the pain they had caused me, but for the public shame they now felt. Lily never contacted me directly. Her social media, however, told a story. She went dark for 2 weeks, then reemerged with a vague post about overcoming a difficult family situation and the importance of protecting your peace from toxic people. The audacity was breathtaking, but it no longer had the power to hurt me. She was just a character on a screen, and I had finally closed the book. Extended family members who had heard bits and pieces of the story reached out. I told them the truth, calmly and without embellishment. Most were horrified and expressed their support, ashamed that they had been unwitting participants in the charade for so many years. Some, a small few, tried to preach forgiveness and keeping the family together, but their words fell on deaf ears. You can't forgive people who aren't sorry. You can't rebuild a bridge with people who are holding blowtorches. Connor and I went on our honeymoon and truly disconnected. We talked about the future, about the children we hoped to have and the kind of family we wanted to be, one built on honesty, respect, and unconditional support. The contrast with the family I had left behind was stark and liberating. Returning home, I legally changed my last name to his, a final symbolic severing of the old ties. Life became quiet, peaceful. My phone no longer rang with manufactured emergencies. Holidays were spent with Connor's warm and loving family. Birthdays were celebrated with joy, not with dread. The constant, low-grade anxiety that had been my lifelong companion finally faded away, replaced by a sense of calm I had never known. I don't know if my parents and sister will ever truly understand the depth of their betrayal. I don't know if they are capable of the kind of self-reflection it would take to change. Frankly, I no longer care. Their story is no longer intertwined with mine. I cut them out of my life not out of spite, but out of a primal need for survival. I had to choose between their comfort and my own sanity, and for the first time in my life, I chose myself. My phone is silent now. The absence of their calls, their texts, their fabricated dramas is the most beautiful sound in the world. It's the sound of freedom. It's the sound of a new beginning, one that I wrote, I directed, and I now get to live happily ever after.